It's a pleasant and a wonderful evening for me, not because I wrote the foreword for this book, but few thoughts on law reporting and writing on law is never exhaust the demand. And when Manoj came asking me to write a foreword, my memory went back to those good old days when National Law School students used to come and intern with me, and we used to look at legal education and its future contribution to growth of law in diverse fields. And one remembers our decennial digest, centennial digest, quinquennial digest, all those wonderful digests we had good old days before internet came as a different kind of a digest formation. And I think those kind of digests continue to have relevance in the sense they're part of history. The law reporting and digesting, as that era belonged to, that part of history is equally important for us in the sense that the way digesting and law reporting organized in those days and how we had a whole corpus of history of law in diverse fields available to us is very interesting. So many of us would like to possess those very valuable digests even today because they have not only historical value, but perhaps have other equally important values. I am not competent enough to lay out certain thoughts on the arbitral issue, but ever since I assumed this office, not only appearance in few cases, but occasions for giving opinions, etc., invites my mind to get into some larger issues. As long as we now talk about a 25-year-old arbitral law in our country, sometimes if you look at the history of how for certain legislations and certain institutions to become part of a legal culture, it takes a little more time. And as long as the arbitral law and institutions continue to be under the shadow of a tree called the adversarial system, there will be, I think, some problems for this culture of arbitration. Just as there is a need for both the mediation to come out of the adversarial system, which is very deeply penetrating roots in our understanding of administration of justice and doing justice, not only from the courts, but also from the bar. So as long as arbitration or mediation continues to be under the shadow, and that's why we have quite a few issues which seem to be, I wouldn't call it obstacle, but seem to be on the way of an orderly growth and a expeditious and a quick emancipation of the institution from the, what I would call the clutches of adversarial system. We need to spend more time on it, and when Mr. Bhasin talked about the need for growth of more and more arbitral institutions, culture of arbitration, in the initial stages you will find that it's the high courts and the court which played a huge role in setting that tone for the reception. The whole idea of arbitration as a very important segment of administration of justice. And so from the clumsily worded arbitration clauses in several government contracts, and then we moved on to a more elegant formulations, courtesy, the unset-all model, and so on and so forth. So last month, while I was speaking in some other function like this, I said it's time for a New Delhi convention. I wish to push this idea of a New Delhi convention and, if possible, gather more insights and to expedite new ideas on the deep roots to be gained by arbitral institutions in India. And I'm sure many private initiatives, like in mediation, we are beginning to talk about recognizing private initiatives as an important part. Because ultimately it seems the lack of trust and faith on any institution seems to be a problem. So the generation of trust and faith, and how do you really do it? And they're very important issues, and I'm sure if we're able to gather a lot of private initiatives, private engagements, and I don't think the genius of India lags behind compared to any other part of the world. We have all that talent, we have all that intelligence, we have all that experience. So, just in response to what Justice Shah said in a lighter vein, I'm going to request Manoj, if possible, to have the next volume released soon after Justice Shah retires. And I'm sure he's got all the materials ready, and I'm sure you will get a foreword from Justice Shah. And I would have done with that, except to say that Hammurabi and Solomon is a great combination. They were all different individuals with the code of Hammurabi, which gives us a lot of insights, even though somebody says it's a code which is built on hierarchical social order. And Solomon was a different figure of doing justice on feet, right? But they are a good combination. And that combination also gives us an insight how what is seemingly seen as different ways of looking at things can come together. And when they come together, you get a new product. And that's this product. And I'm so glad about this. And I know the next speaker, Chief Justice Mishra, will be like a Delphi oracle. And when the Delphi oracle speaks, nobody else speaks. Right? So I'm thankful to all of you for this wonderful evening to call me here. And I wish every one of you to be a part of the great journey of making arbitration an integral part of administration of justice in our country. Thank you.